Welcome to Empowered Heart to Heart, where you'll hear messages of hope, conversations that heal, and interviews that empower. Well, hey, this is Rhonda Simmons, and I am so excited today. Welcome to another edition of Empowered Heart to Heart. I am so glad that you're here with me because it's just not the same without you. No, it's not. No, it's not. And every single time you miss an episode, you're missing something great. So make sure you bookmark or whatever you want to call it so that you can come directly to our podcast. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. I think we're on Apple Podcasts as well. We're also on my YouTube channel by the same name, Empowered Heart to Heart, so you get to see the video version. And somehow or another, I figured out how to get the actual podcast on YouTube. I don't know how I did it, but I did it, and it's there. So check it out. And if you do go to our YouTube channel, make sure you like, comment, and share this video. Also, be sure to subscribe so that you know every single time I upload a new video. Because let me tell you, I am on the move, and this is the year of getting things done. And so you don't want to miss anything. Also, reach out to me on our various social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And our handle is at TSEFIORG. So as many of you know, I have been focusing the entire month of February on the series called The Heart of the Matter. And I have been interviewing women from two totally separate arenas. The first one would be women in the health profession, whether they're health coaches or doctors. The focus is on heart health because February is Heart Health Month. And as women, we are at risk for having heart attacks, and our symptoms are much different than those of men. And we need to know what to do so that we can live long, healthy lives and have good heart health. And so make sure you look at those episodes and listen in and get the instruction that you need so that you can have the quality of life that you desire. The other arena that I've been focused on is interviewing African American women who are successful in their respective fields, who are doing great things and causing wonderful impact in the lives of so many people, because February is Black History Month. And yes, we've got history books full of so many African Americans who have done great things. Mary McLeod Bethune, Harriet Tubman, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Maya Angelou, just to name a few, Madam C.J. Walker, so many in the history books. But guess what? There are just as many powerful African American women who are doing great things and changing lives and changing the world because they can. Yes, they can. We are powerful. And so I wanted to celebrate African American women who are doing great things. And today is no exception. I am so excited because my guest today is doing great things. Her name is Elaine Borum, and she is about a great work. Let me tell you, she is on fire. She is an author. She is a speaker. She is a bookstore owner. And she is a single adoptive foster mom of not one, not two, not three, but 4 children. I know one question I'm definitely going to ask her is how does she do it all? Because I want to know, but she is changing lives. And so you definitely want to stay in the room. Go ahead and get comfortable. Grab your water, your tea, your coffee, your milk, whatever, and get comfortable so that you can hear what this great woman is doing. Because like I always say, I have met some of the best people this side of heaven, and today is no exception. And so, as they say in church, I like to introduce to some and present to others, none other than Miss Elaine Borum. Hello, Nina.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for being with us tonight. I'm so glad you're here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. And so out of all of the things that you shared with me that you do, one of the things that really got my attention because of my nonprofit organization that supports unwed teen moms is the fact that you are an adoptive foster parent of 4. So what got you to that point?
Whew, that's a great question. What led me here? A lot of things, but I will say initially, I never wanted to be a foster parent. And I like to share this story because a lot of people are just like, oh my goodness, you're so amazing. You do this. And I just want to say, hey, I never wanted to be a foster parent. I actually had a pretty bad stereotype of foster parents, and I didn't want to be associated with that. But I always wanted to adopt. And I don't know, that obviously came from the Lord. That desire can only come from the Lord. But that started when I was a child. I just imagined adopting children. And the way that I got into foster care is because I realized that I I needed to save up a ton of money to adopt. I didn't realize that adoption at the time when I first called was more than I was even making in a salary. And I said, oh, "Okay, Lord, like I thought you gave me a heart to adopt, and this is not a feasible thing." And I'm just keeping it real if that's okay with you, okay? So I knew that I could not afford to adopt, but it was also on my heart. And I actually had some friends who were fostering, and they slowly started to soften my heart to what that could be about and what that could be like. And I thought, well, my friends aren't the stereotype, of foster parents that we see on TV. You hear things like foster parents, they take advantage of kids, In my mind, I thought a foster parent was someone who didn't care enough to keep the child. And so that was my messed up view of foster care. And I learned from my friends that I could still adopt through foster care. And they said you still have to just go through these classes, and then you can go on this website and you can basically pick out a kid. So I said, okay, I went to the classes. And I'm in the classes, Rhonda, and my heart is breaking because they are sharing the need for foster parents. They're telling me that kids are sleeping in offices. They're telling me that siblings are being split apart. They're telling me that kids are being bounced around. And I was like, okay, I need to pause. I need to go back to the Lord because I had my mind made up. I'm going to go through these foster classes just so I can adopt. And I get in the classes and realize that wasn't where God needed me at the moment. He needed me to be a foster parent. And so that's kind of the medium version of what led me here.
Wow. 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 I can relate to you on so many levels. That is amazing. That is amazing. Can I share something funny with you?
Yes.
In 2014, I was divorced at the time. I didn't have any children of my own, and I considered foster parenting. Actually, I tried it, and because that was something. Adoption was something my husband and I had wanted to do, and it never came to pass. And so now that I was on my own, I wanted to foster parent, and I ended up foster parenting 2 sisters. They were half sisters. One was
Wow.
7, and one was 12. I must admit, I made it 6 days. Girl, I made it 6 days. The thing now, mind you, I grew up as an only child, so even having siblings around and extra children, this was just I was so far out of my comfort zone. And there was no rest. I couldn't go to the restroom for any extended amount of time. What are you doing in there? And I lasted 6 days. And long story short, my respect for single moms everywhere went through the roof. I mean, the fact that you haven't harmed your children because you're so stressed, is an amazing thing. And so I applaud you that you didn't allow your singlehood
Mm.
to just overshadow your decision to do what you said God is telling you to do, because it was hard. I had to plan for everything. And in those 6 days, I was a nervous wreck because I thought, if one gets sick and I have to leave my job, how often am I going to have to do that? It just, so woohoo for you.
Well, I do want to mention, because you mentioned this, my marital status. And so, in my mind as well, when I thought about adoption, of course, I always thought about that with a husband. That was the daydream. And I'm 40 years old. And so I started this journey about 5 years ago. And I just realized, I was like, you know what? Kids need a place to stay now that's safe. Why wouldn't I just start now? Because let's face it, I've been waiting for a long time. So maybe we can talk about that on a different podcast. I was just like, I can't keep waiting and hoping that a man will come and then I can do this thing. Right now, there are kids who don't have a safe place to sleep. My house is better than the floor at DCS. So I really had to push past that. And honestly, I got just a little bit of flack for that. And I just say a little because 9 out of 10 of my friends were super supportive. Mm-hmm. And I only had one set of friends who basically were like, we don't feel like you're making the right choice. This isn't biblical, for you to be caring for kids without a husband. That really is a mindset. And so I don't want to tear that mindset down, but I do believe it really kind of actually inspired me to keep going. Mm-hmm. Because I know that there are 2-parent homes that are not healthy. And I said, as long as this is a healthy home, as long as this is a godly home, it will be better than what they're coming from, at least for a season. And so, yeah, I just trusted the Lord. And honestly, I said, you know what, Lord, I know when I do this, the pool of men is going to shrink. And that's okay with me. So, yes, it was definitely an act of faith.
Yes. Wow. I can't even think of what scripture they stood on to say foster parenting as a single person wasn't biblical, but I guess this isn't that show either. So, but and it is interesting because when you're not doing anything, people seem to be so supportive of you doing nothing. Until you decide to do something life-changing like this, then all of a sudden they have opinions.
Yes. And I always try to take things with a grain of salt. I do think those people who think that way, it could come from a good place. Because yes, I firsthand know that there are things in my household that would be smoother if there was another godly adult in this house. If there was a father figure in the house. I know that. But we do not live in a perfect world. And God gets the glory from us just being the way that we are. He uses our imperfect stories for his glory. And so I always have to give the glory to God, because I'm like, y'all know it's just me. It has to be God. No one else can get the credit but God. And so I understand where they're coming from, but also, we are people of faith. Mm-hmm. And we are people who are obedient to the Lord when he asks us to do things that may not seem to make sense or fit into a box. And we have to say yes to those things.
Amen. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So as a single mom, what type of support system do
Mm.
you have in place? Because one little thing that could get the system off track could mess up so many things. So, talk about your support system.
Yeah, I always like to say I'm not doing this alone, even though I am a single parent. And I think one day that really highlighted my support system was my adoption day with two of my children. And my friends came to court. And the people who showed up at court, those were the support system that I had. I have my family, my biological family, but none of them live in Tennessee with me. But they have visited. They have built relationships with the kids. And so for me, when I said yes to my children, it wasn't just about providing a mom. I was also trying to provide aunties and uncles. And I have friends who have stepped up as aunts and uncles, as godparents. And so I do have that core group of people who not only love the kids, which obviously is important, but they support me as a person. Like, they're asking me how I'm doing. They're sending me on, little spa days and things like that. Like, they're taking care of mom so that I can take care of my kids. So that's that core group of people. And then outside of that, obviously, my church family has been supportive of us, and it's very difficult for me to ask for help. And that's something that God really had to change when I became a mom. He's like, no, 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 no. You're going to need some help, and you're going to have to learn to receive help. So I've been humbled, and I've had to learn how to say yes to people who are like, hey, I've got this bag of clothes, or hey, we just wanted to cook you dinner tonight, or you know what I mean? I've just had to be able to say yes and realize it's not about me. These are God's children, and God is sending people to love on my children as well. So I have to be able to receive so that my kids can experience God's love through other people as well. So yeah, I've been very thankful for my support system. And of course, at the end of the day, it's just me, at home, with the kids running around. But even with that, sometimes I'll just call my mom on the phone, and the kids will straighten up real quick because they know I'm calling my mom. So I feel very supported.
That is fantastic. Oh my goodness. Wow. So, a couple of questions were running through my mind. When you foster parented and adopted,
Mm-hmm.
was there a particular age group you were looking for?
So when I got licensed as a foster parent, I did it for all of the ages. And that first couple weeks, I had some placements, but they were all temporary. And they were age 1 to 16. So I had a range. And the reason it was temporary was because I had already planned to leave the country. I was leaving the country for like 10 days, and they didn't want to put a child with me for long term, knowing that I was going to leave. So I kind of got to practice with different age groups, which was great. And I learned for me, I do better with younger kids. But the truth is, older kids and younger kids are both difficult. You just have to choose your hard. For me, I chose the hard of sleepless nights and diapers and things like that versus, potentially disrespect and like stealing and just things you deal with like the older kids. So you kind of choose your hard. But on my application, I was open to all ages, and it just so happens that I got younger kids as my first placement, my first permanent placement.
Wonderful, wonderful. With the fostering program, do you find it hard when it's time to give the children back?
So the children that I recently adopted in October, I had them for 4 years.
Oh,
I
wow.
had them for 4 years before I was able to adopt them. And the two that I have now, I've only had them, for a shorter time. But the ones that I had before, that was it was a challenging thing, but it was such a short stay that I was able to have peace with it. And I think knowing that when they came, they were going to leave at the end of the week, like it was already in the plan because I had to leave the country. My mind was already prepared for that. But I will say that with the two that I just adopted, when they came to me, they also came with their sister. And so, really, I had three. And their sister actually went to go live with the grandparent. So we had sister for about 6 months. And I'll say that would be my closest experience to really having to say goodbye. And that was hard for a few reasons, but the main reason was that she was so young. She was like 5 years old, and she could not wrap her head around why her brother and sister got to stay with me and she had to leave. Because in the system, if you have different dads, then they're going to find someone on that side of the family, and they found someone, and she's fine. She's with her grandma. Her grandma loves her. But that was a very hard thing to go through because I still remember her just banging on my bedroom door. You don't love me. You're sending me away. Why don't you want to be my mom? Like, I will never unhear that. And I was just so angry at the system because it didn't have to go down the way that it went down. But what helped me with that was I got to know grandma. And grandma came over to the house, and we slowly started explaining to her, like, you're going to be going to live with grandma. And just knowing that grandma loved her so much and that grandma was going to do everything she could to keep her safe, that helped me to let go. But our family did go through a mourning because we literally lost a part of our family. The other two lost their sister. And that's something they won't really understand until they're older, like really get like why she had to leave. Because I can say it now and they're just like, huh? But why? You know? So that was definitely hard, but what made it easier was getting to know where she was going and knowing that it was going to be a safe place for her.
Wow. What a beautiful, beautiful life of compassion, that you have just shown to your children and to so many others. And who knows, you may continue to foster parent and keep growing your family. And
There's enough kids in the house.
okay, all righty, I get it, but you are doing a great work. And so as we wrap up, Nina, what would you tell another young lady like yourself? What would you tell that young lady who is considering adoption or foster parenting?
What I would say to her, and really anyone else considering, is to make sure you're doing it for the child and not for you. Because a lot of the times when people say they don't want to foster, their excuse is that it would be too hard for them. And I think, well, it's a good thing you're not doing this if you're doing it for how you're going to feel. You should be doing it to create a safe place for the child. When you think about it in those terms, then you have the grace to go through that hard time, but you realize that you're actually helping to heal a child. A foster parent is fostering healing for a child that's gone through a traumatic event. We don't do it so that we feel good. We don't not do it because it would be hard to send them back. So what? They've gone through a lot harder things. If you can be a part of their healing, why not do that? So I would just say, give yourself a heart check and just make sure that your primary reason is you're doing it. One, the Lord is giving you the grace for it, but two, for the health of the child and not just for you to feel good about something. And I know that might sound harsh, but that's what I would say to someone.
It doesn't sound harsh at all. It needed to be said because I was actually thinking along those lines anyway. And I'm glad you said that because it's all about the children. You know, the trauma that many of these children have been through um, is horrific. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I remember when I went through my training, one of the things they said was, you know, there may be times when you're called upon for a placement and we don't have all the paperwork yet. Just go ahead and assume that that child has been sexually assaulted because
Mm-hmm.
it is so popular. And I don't mean popular in a good way. It
Yeah.
is so frequent. They even told us, like, I think the percentage was 75% of prostitutes were in foster care at some point, you know, and so it's real. And so our little feelings about, oh, it'll hurt too much to let go, they don't fit into the picture. They
No.
do. Not at all. Not at all. Well, Nina, just before we go, I think I read that you own a bookstore. Okay.
Yes.
So,
Which was inspired by my children, because I tell my children all the time, if God puts something on your heart to do, He will give you the strength to do it. You need to do what God is calling you to do. And I was saying that, but I wasn't doing what I thought God wanted me to do. You know, wanted me to step out in faith and create a business that would help the community grow spiritually. And so, Bow Society and Books is a bookstore, and we feature Christian books. And so that's been a really exciting journey. We're under 2 years old, still very new. But I'm just so thankful that God is giving me the grace to do that business as well with everything going on.
yes, yes. I will also put the website in the description too, but it's on your screen if you're watching us on YouTube. That is exciting. And right before the show, I found out that my book is on there.
Yes.
So go to thebowsociety.com and get my book, Dear Future
Yes.
Me, The Journey Begins. Or you can get any other book, but since I don't know the other authors there, get my book.
That's right.
And so I'm excited for all that you're doing, the impact that you're making. Nina, Elaine, that is just so wonderful. Thank you for having a heart for the work that you do. It's just, you know, it kind of reminds me of an old hymn. You know, I know people, you know, don't sing hymns too much anymore, but you know, maybe I'm of that age group where I just start regressing and thinking about hymns. But it's the hymn says, if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody that they're traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. And you're doing that. You're helping these children. And, you know, on your worst days, you know, because all parents have them, on your worst
Yes.
days, your kids will remember what you did for them.
Mm.
They will. They will remember how you rescued them and you helped them. And so thank you on their behalf. I'm saying thank you. Thank you for being a wonderful mom.
Thank you. I'm thankful for them. I'm so thankful for them.
Wow. Wow. And so I tell you, I'm not going to tear up, but I appreciate you being on the show today. And thank you for your time. I know your hands are full and it's probably time to put the kiddos to bed.
Oh, no, they're in bed. It was chaotic right before this call. I was like, y'all have got to go to sleep. Like, I'm recording a podcast. Go to bed. But
Well,
but the baby will probably start crying in a bit because it's time to feed her. So perfect timing.
oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. And thank you for being you and all that you do. And I pray God's richest, highest blessings upon you and your family.
Thank you so much. You have a good night.
You too. And if you'll hang out just for a second, I'll wrap up the show and get right back to you.
All
Okay.
right.
Oh my goodness, y'all. Wasn't that amazing? Nina Elaine Borum. Remember the name. Remember her bookstore. Oh my goodness, she has done a tremendous job. She has done what many of us wouldn't dare to do. Because some people have this idea, that they can only raise their own children that they birthed into the world. Um, okay, I guess we'll respect that. Yeah, sure. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But how much greater is it to be able to raise someone else's child, as your own, and share that unadulterated love, that pure love, like only a mom can have. And so Nina Elaine is doing a great work. And so when you say your prayers tonight, pray for her, that God will continue to give her strength and wisdom to raise her children, because last I checked, children didn't come with an instruction manual, especially when you're dealing with children of trauma. And regardless of their ages, they've been removed from their birth mom for whatever reason. Who knows? I have no idea. But here they are now in someone else's home, and they have to learn new systems, learn this new person who's caring for them. They're angry about why they're not with their birth mom, and they probably can't even express it depending on their ages. But yet Nina Elaine is doing the work and loving them through the trauma so that they can heal and be well-rounded, whole adults one day. And so when you pray tonight, remember Nina Elaine Borum and all that she's doing for these children and having that heart of compassion. So until the next time, be blessed, be encouraged, but most of all, be empowered. And I'll see you on the next edition of Empowered Heart to Heart.